One. All right. Welcome to our, what's this, 13th? 14th.
I think is it 14? I can't even remember now.
I'm bad at this too. It's the 13th or 14th virtual salon. That's what we're going with.
It says 14th in the email.
All right, 14 it is.
14th. It is 14th.
Yes. Today is March 30th, the last day of Women's History Month, and today is actually our second set of presentations by some of the women artists in our movement and community. Today we have presenting Susan Detroy, Sherry Karver, and Deann Stein Hasinoff. I think I said that correctly. I hope I did. Yeah, thumbs up. All right, good. So how we're going to kick this off, we're going to start with our three presenters. Their presentations will last anywhere between 10, 15-ish or so minutes. Have a little bit of a Q&A after that. And then following that, we're going to be kind of just opening up for general discussion, what's going on, a lot of discussion about NFTs, a lot of news about NFTs right now in our kind of space. Some of our artists actually being participants in kind of what's going on in the press with NFTs. So that's exciting, and we can talk a bit about that or just other things going on, like the upcoming collab, the NFT show that we're putting on, or the whatever. That being said,
2 weeks we're doing the opening, right, for the collab.
Yep, in 2 weeks.
Next salon. So we'll build that into the schedule. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah. And welcome, and thanks for being here. I think I'm going to now hand it off to our first presenter, and right now I have Susan Detroy as our first presenter for today. So Susan, you have the floor if you're ready to go.
Hi. I'm gonna pronounce my name for you, which is Susan Detroy.
Oh, I'm sorry, Detroy.
It's French, or used to be French, but that's okay. Just
all right.
FYI. So I'm in Eugene, Oregon, and this is this is actually a view not far from my house. So I thought I'd do a virtual background of something that is near my home. So
I'm sorry, I'm just going to interrupt for a second. If everyone could just mute yourselves other than the speaker, that'd be most appreciated. Thanks.
I was actually about to do that myself.
All righty. I'm going to time myself so that I can tell. So my background is I came to using digital actually through a lot of years of photography. I had a business as a analog photographer. I used black and white and infrared and color print film, all that kind of thing. And also did a lot of what was called alternative photography with Polaroids and transfer kind of work, and built, have a lifetime of series, 5 different series in that kind of work. And I'll show you a couple examples if you're interested. And so I came through to digital work through my photography business and studying photography. I was an analog photographer. I worked in a dark room for a lot of years in a science lab at the University of Oregon. And I was initially really resistant to digital when it first happened. And I was in the middle of a health challenge, and the digital took my business down. When digital came along, it took my analog business down, and I was not happy about that. So I want to screen share. Can you, let's see, I can do that. Okay. All right. Tell me if things are coming up okay. Are you seeing my iPad?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Well, we all felt it was
Okay.
we were part of an historic experience. We didn't
All right.
really know.
So,
the
what I'm
historic
going to show you
significance
is
of it
just,
until years
these are the
later.
galleries that I have. I have a portfolio, online portfolio. I'm just going to briefly, this is the kind of work I used to do in infrared. It was with animals, and so this was my infrared work. And before, also, I did a kind of printmaking that used photography, transfer prints. If people are familiar with Van Dyke Brown and cyanotype, I did work in that in the past. Dragonfly and cactus were my main things. Okay, then let's see, what was I gonna do? So I'm gonna go back to the Zoom and stop sharing. Okay, how do I get back into, okay, there. I have a new iPad, so I'm getting used to using this really beautiful, big new iPad. So that was the work I did for a lot of years. And then about five or 6 years ago, when I still had a Android camera, like a, I can't even remember what kind I had, but I had a little Android camera. I took a class from a woman named Susan Bain, B-E-I-N. She's in Portland. And it did that really iconic thing. It literally changed the course of my life. I became enamored with the cell phone camera, but I was still using analog and digital a little bit, but mostly just for art. And once I took that class, a whole different world opened up to me of using a camera and the apps, the digital apps on an iPad and well, then I got an iPad and I ended up getting an iPhone because I like Apple products so much better. And I also was introduced to a group through a woman named Joanne Carter, who runs the App Whisperer. She's in the UK. I don't know if people know her. And that, when I started seeing the work that other artists were doing that was app driven on their iPad, then I was pretty much dedicated to that kind of work. And then about 3 years ago, I started a series called Portrait of a Woman, which is self-reflective and is a completely about female aging. So it's it happened because I was really unhappy with what was in my head about aging. I was looking at myself and I didn't like myself. I had all that kind of cultural stuff going on. And I decided, this is a compressed version, but I decided I would just turn the camera on myself all the time. And it was not easy, and it's still not easy. And then I eventually started melding my own image that I would take with the iPhone, and then I would capture other images of natural things, leaves, and mostly leaves, trees, landscape kind of stuff. And I started using apps to meld those images together. And then I became more experimental. So I still am creating this series pretty much all the time, but I'm also doing other work. So I'm going to show you, okay, I'm going to go back into screen share. Okay. So this is what's in my portfolio now online. the work I have it divided into two sections. One is work that is currently not available, not available for hard copy, which is not completely true anymore because I've done a lot more. Anyway, I'll go a little bit slower. That's silly to go fast. But this work, this is a good example of a melded piece where I used my dog and some dandelions, that kind of thing. So this is a little bit more recent, last summer, I think. So I'm continuing to do this work. And then let me go back. Before COVID, all this work I would produce digitally, but I come from the model of gallery model because I was a gallery director in a couple, 2 or 3 different galleries over in the past. And so I have that, and I come from a hard copy photography production model. So in my mind, up until the pandemic, I was thinking about making work, but then the end product would always be a hard copy. So I divided my portfolio into the pieces that were available for hard copy to show in museums and galleries. So that's what I was doing before the pandemic hit. And then after so that's changed, and I'm starting to change that. But during the pandemic, I also produced I started a whole series on using video and some still work that's called Born of the Pandemic. And this work is not as well, it's not so much curated, although somewhat curated. It's just simply put in the portfolio. But this is all work about masks and being in the pandemic, humans. And then this is all work that was created, digital work that was created, that's more floral and things that happened to me during the pandemic. So also, as I mentioned, I started at the beginning of the lockdown in March. I started a video journal, and I didn't know where that was going to go, but I recorded myself for, I think it was 90 days. And then I turned that video journal into film called In the Now, which is, I can share. It's not, it's in this gallery that I have. It's a 49-minute film that mixes my journaling from that period of time, and also still images, captures, digital captures that I made over time in Oregon. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to get out of there. So what I'm doing now, I'm just going to show a few. These are some of my more recent pieces. I use a number of digital cameras that are within the iPhone, the Hipstamatic camera and the Blackie camera. And then I take the pieces and I work on my new iPad using a variety of apps. I also have a YouTube channel that's somewhat together that shows, and this is more recent work where I'm digitizing even more and making things move. That's sometime, that one's a little hard to see, but you get the idea of it, what I'm doing. I also am doing collaborations. I just, this is a collaboration. You can see this is my work on one side with my face, and this is a woman named Jo Sullivan that I did. And I also do some collaboration with people, commissions. This is a commission as well as this. Okay, I think I'm getting to the end. I just wanted to show one more thing. Okay. Okay, here's a quick, I also I think I mentioned I did some experimental videos, and I'm going to show a really short one that I did. Can you see this okay? Oh, the sound's not playing, but anyway, this is a video I did for this window front display event that happened in downtown Eugene that I worked with my neighboring artists to create. So, okay. I'm gonna get back into the Zoom. Stop sharing. Okay, I tried to keep it under 15, so.
It's really nice work.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, thank you. Boy, that was kind of like a little, I felt like I was going really fast trying to get it in, but thank you for
I think your pacing
letting
was
me
pretty
present.
good.
What?
I think your pacing was fine.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah. You do have at least one question that was asked during your presentation. Anne wanted to know what some of the apps that you use to meld your images.
Oh, okay. If I'm allowed to, do you want me to say out loud, or I can screen share and show my app?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll screen share that. And you'll get a sense of the crazy amount of apps I own. Okay, so this is my iPad. These are my cameras. These are my photo apps.
Oh, wow.
So mainly I use, well, it depends on the piece, but I use this Painterest quite a bit. Waterlog, those are two basic ones I use. Snapseed, Alien Sky, I adore Alien Sky, and Gloomlog. So there you can see I use a lot. I have a lot. I don't use them all every time. I also have blending apps. Diana is one that I use quite a bit. It's kind of clunky, but I like it quite a bit. And another is, if people are interested in an app that's super deep, is iColorama. I've taken at least 2 or 3 classes in that app. It's very, very deep in as much as it has layers within layers. So, and then I have video making apps. Okay.
All right.
There, that's the answer to the question.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Susan?
Who needs desktops anymore, right?
Me.
I know. Now that I have this like really giant iPad, I have one like this size. This is my old iPad.
Yeah.
But, and now I have this Pro giant iPad, and I hardly get on my desktop anymore.
The Pro is really a fantastic platform for creation. It really is. You know, it's,
what did you say? I didn't catch what you
the
said.
iPad Pro is a really fantastic platform for creation. It really is.
Yeah.
You know.
I just got this like a month or 2 ago, and the size and the way that the images look on this iPad is fantastic. I think fantastic. So, okay.
Susan, can I just quickly, Roz here. Hello to everybody. I was offline for a bit, had an earlier kind of crisis going on with a client, which I'm sure people can relate to. Life gets in the way of art, but I'm back on, and hello to everybody. And thank you, Susan. That was great. Question, do you, working on pieces for a long time in Photoshop, honestly, on a desktop where pieces get, into getting like 1 gig or bigger, multiple layers within layers and layer sets of these diamondscapes I make sometime. I'm wondering and these are at 300 PPI, on your iPad Pro, are you, do you find you're limited with resolution or stuttering, or can you make them as big or as high or as large as you want? I mean,
the apps really limit the size.
yeah.
The apps produce, and it varies from app to app. And I can't get really very big.
I would
a lot of the apps
from that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet as
I
things
mean,
start moving to online virtual, it's like, if it's not going to be going out to physical space, it's a great thing to use, I guess.
one of the issues for me personally as an artist, and some people would say to me, well, how do you reproduce when I was still thinking of reproducing things to canvas or prints, how do you reproduce and keep things true? And I have to say, honestly, I sort of don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not, my work is not of the type where I feel married to, like I used to. I no longer feel married to the color or exactly how it looks. What it comes back from the print lab, I'm just like, ooh, that's exciting. It looks good. I don't have that particularity about that work, which helps when you're reproducing something. Oh, I was just, because here's, where's the camera? Like this, oh, it's not going to show it. But I just would get little canvas prints online.
Yeah, I think that's maybe a larger discussion if we don't have presenters sometime about resolution and what you're going out to, and
Yeah.
whether you're going physical or virtual. I think that's a very big issue right now because there's such a big virtual market alone. But thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was very fun to prepare. Thank you.
Thank you. It was indeed a pleasure. And I will say your last name correctly from now on.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right. Well, thank you very much, Susan. And let's move right along to, I believe, Sherry Karver is our next presenter for today. Sherry,
Hey,
you here?
everybody. Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Hello, everybody. I'm so glad you're all here. And I want to thank a number of you for starting to follow me on Instagram. I really, truly appreciate that. And I enjoy seeing all of your work too. So several meetings ago, I showed you a series I was doing on glitch art. But today I want to show you an older series, my surveillance work that I really haven't shown in quite some time. And I really do want to share that with you. So let me see, it's a 2-part series. So let me see if I can screen share here. Let me see what I have. Okay, let me share that. Can you all see that? Yes? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the series. Oh, it's not my glitch series yet. I'm going to start right up here. Okay, so I have a 2-part series on surveillance, and I use very low-tech technology to do my fine art work. I started this series actually around 2000, and I finished it around 2007. So I began this first series really before 9/11, and I'll talk about the work as I show it. I really became kind of enamored with the screening machines at airports when you put your carry-on luggage, through the conveyor belt and you can see the inside X-ray, pretty much like an X-ray of our own body. And before 9/11, airports were very loose, and they let me get really close to the monitors, and nobody complained that I was photographing the monitors as the luggage was going by. And I did many, many photos of it. I never really knew, though, how I wanted to present this work. So I just sort of saved them up and kept them, which is good, since now we're not allowed to get anywhere within like 100 feet of the machines. And what I realized was that most of the stuff in the carry-on luggage is simply not that interesting. Shoes, clothes, eyeglasses, whatever. It's more what we are afraid is in somebody's suitcase. It kind of goes into our own fear about that. And so I decided to kind of enhance the images with my own additions. And in this case, you could see I added the gun. All the other things were actually there. So again, I said I didn't know how I wanted to present this. And then around 2007, I was invited to have a show at the Morris Graves Museum in Eureka, California. I'm in California. And they wanted the surveillance series. So that really got me thinking about, how am I going to present this in a museum setting? And it just all of a sudden dawned on me, I should do this in a light box and in actual suitcases. So I got a bunch of vintage suitcases and I cut out the front panel, and then I had the images made into light boxes that I then installed inside of the suitcases. And these were all hung on the wall in a row, kind of like you would see them on the conveyor belt. And they were plugged in, so they lit up. So this one, the steel-toed boots were actually in the suitcase. And this was during the time when there was a big thing about liquid-filled bottles, and that you couldn't have anything more than 3 ounces in your suitcase. So then, of course, I started to add, these little liquid-filled bottles here, the magenta one and the blue and green one. But everything else was actually in that suitcase. This one, the shoes and all the little items were in there, but I added the little M90 firecrackers. And I was doing this sort of tongue in cheek, but again, as I mentioned, it plays into our own fear of, what might be in somebody's luggage. And these are all the size of small carry-on suitcases. This one is about 15 inches by 23 inches by about 7 inches deep. This one had these odd little bottles and a spoon in there. I'm not quite sure what those things were, but I've, of course, added the scissors that looked like they had a little bit of blood on them, all made up. And this one, I added the big bomb jumbo firecrackers and the little pliers at the bottom. This one had a bunch of wires and glasses in there, but I added the pliers again. And you can see these are all old vintage suitcases. And it's really hard to cut the front of a suitcase out and they have a, still look okay. And I have one more from this part. This had one white shoe in there. I don't know where the other shoe was, but of course then I added the gun to it as well. So I have several of these, but then I decided I wanted to do more with this series besides just the suitcases. So I began another part, I call it part 2, webcams. So somehow by accident, I found webcams on the internet, and I really got into looking at them. And this was when cameras were first out there on buildings. And I think there was a lot of hesitation and outcry from people about, is this invading our privacy? Should there be cameras on all the buildings? Of course, now this is very common, and surveillance cameras have become kind of a way of life for us now. They're on every building and every place we go. I think we are the most photographed and documented generation in history, because we're always on some webcam somewhere. So I decided to start looking at webcams in different parts of not only the country, but the world. And, I could sit comfortably in my living room in Oakland, California, and I could tune in to things that were happening, virtually anywhere in the world. And I decided to specifically look at websites of places that had some kind of meaning for me. And I love New York, and this is 46th and Broadway near Times Square. And they had a camera that was quite low on a building so people could see themselves. And you could see people would hold up signs. They would, this middle one, they would hold up their babies to show other people, and I was just fascinated with this. So a little bit of voyeurism, I think. So I took many, many pictures like this. This one is called The Wave, and these people obviously knew that that camera was low down and they were waving. And it really made me feel kind of that idea of alienation and loneliness, that these people are just kind of waving out into space in the hopes that somebody like me sitting there is going to see them, and maybe relate to them and wave back, although of course they couldn't see me waving back. But it really, kind of set up that whole feeling of our only interaction sometimes is just through the internet. So getting back to the kind of Times Square area around 45th, 46th and Broadway, I wanted to do a 4-part piece showing this particular intersection in different seasons. So this was fall and it was rainy season when I caught this image. And then this one is the exact same intersection in winter where they closed the entire street because of the snow. But unfortunately, they took that webcam down. So after that, I could never get spring and summer. So I had to move on to other webcams. This one is a train track in Krakow, Poland, which is where my mother was born. And I kind of pictured my mother possibly standing on this very platform, years and years ago, waiting for a train. And I especially like that it was time stamped at the top of when I took this picture to know exactly what time, what station. It was in 2006. So all of these pieces I printed out in black and white, and I hand painted them with layers of oil glazes, mounted them on wooden boards, did some more glazing on them, and then they have resin surfaces. So that's how I presented these in conjunction with the suitcases. This is the Western Wall in Israel, a place I've visited several times. And what I really liked about this webcam, or what fascinated me, was if you look down here at this lower right-hand corner, you see that brown lattice fence. The women were praying on this side of the fence and the men were praying on the other side of the fence. I'm not sure that still happens nowadays, but back in 2006, that is how they had that separation. It's probably still like that. And then I lived in New Orleans. I went to grad school at Tulane. So I lived in New Orleans for a number of years. And I really liked webcams that are down there. This one is called Burbo Cam, and it was on Bourbon Street, and it was during Mardi Gras. You can see they had like heavy police presence. I don't know what was going on there, but a lot of police. And this is the last one from the series. And this is called Oyster Cam. And this was an oyster bar in New Orleans. And this one was kind of the most personal for me because like I said, I'm sitting in California and I'm watching these people eating in an oyster bar that I probably was at, in the past, and they're alone, or maybe they're on a date, and they have no idea that they are being watched by somebody on the other side of the country. And there's something like so voyeuristic about it, yet so delicious about it, that I kind of couldn't stop looking at these. All of these webcams are in motion, things are constantly happening, and I just capture, one still, like this one. But they are, totally in motion. And a moment later, this might have been a totally different scene. So that's the end of this series. And I just wanted to just catch you up to what I'm doing now. My Movement Interrupted. I showed this series to you guys, I don't know, a couple months ago. So I'm only going to show you 4 little quick things. These are data corruption glitches that I'm photographing off of my TV screen. And I just wait for the screen to pixelate due to uneven reception. And I do like maybe 100 photos to get one interesting one. So I don't really do any manipulation on these at all other than minor cropping. The TV is just literally channeling these images to me, and I'm just, harnessing these data corruption glitches for aesthetic purposes. This one's called The Dancers. This one's called Anonymous Man. This one's called Visiting Apparition. I don't know if you can even see this kind of pale apparition on the top here, right-hand corner. This was actually a little video of Jared Neiman, who's a country western singer. I really like his music. I was watching one of his little videos and it started to break up like this, and then this apparition appeared. So I had to kind of click that. Oh, and all of these pieces I have printed professionally as dye sublimation on metal. I tried doing them on paper. They did not really look that good. There's something about that metal substrate coming through, shining through the surface that just works really well, I think, with this kind of technology or the glitches that happen. And then the last one, this one I just caught the other day. It was from the ice skating show that was on TV, Ice Skating Championships. And this was one of the skaters. So that catches you up to my current work, and you've seen my old work. So now I'll try to unshare my screen. I can figure out how to do that. Stop share. And we close that. So any questions? Questions from anybody? No?
That was fabulous, Sherry. That was fabulous.
Thanks, Roz.
Great
Wonderful.
presentations. I have to just say, that I have always loved those screens in the airport, and I had in my mind years ago that I was going to do some kind of show, including the conveyor belt or something. But that was so great about. Those images at the airport are gorgeous. I've always found them fascinating. And I know other people may have questions. I had written, but I think Michael Pointer answered mine. I wrote and said, well, how do you get your TV to cooperate? And he said, oh, it's antenna versus cable. And I went, well, who wants reception anymore? If you can get great art like that, I don't think I even want to watch TV the way I used to. It's better not to watch it. It's where you can really see it. Those are wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I don't have cable. I just have the old antenna, and I have an old junky TV, and it just does it all by itself.
I don't think my husband's going to really like it when I want him to trade in. He's not going to be happy about this.
Do it for art. Say it's for art.
Oh, totally. Yes.
Yeah.
He's used to that. To that poor guy.
All right. You do have a couple of questions in the chat. So, one from Sue. She wants to know, have you tried data moshing?
I don't even know what that is.
I was going to ask you if you know what that
I'm
is.
low tech.
Gotcha.
I'll look it up, Sue. I'll look it up.
Yeah, it might be something you can explore. And then Colin wants to know, are your metal prints produced on white surfaces, or is the substrate the bare metal?
It's usually the bare metal, because I like that silver coming through. The only time I've had one done on a white background was when there was a lot of white in the actual image. But otherwise, the metal surface for me works better.
That actually seems to be a very common thing about some of us that make prints of our digital work, that, we found that aluminum or metal just seems to lend itself to a better appearance, because I know that's what I use with my stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Sue, if you're in here, you might actually have to explain yourself about what data moshing is, because now you have people asking about it.
Yeah, cool. It's actually, one way of doing it is to open a video file using a program that isn't for video. So you might get an old copy of Audacity, which is a sound program, an old one, and you open the video and you can see all the hexadecimal information. You change a few things, save it, and then open it, and it glitches the video. Yeah. So that's the original way of getting glitches on purpose, but it's still quite, you don't get this exactly what you want. Most of the time it's quite chaotic. So it's fun to do that.
All right.
Hey, can I take a moment and tell you an interesting story about early glitches? I have a long history of making art and curating, and I was curating an exhibit in the early 90s, and I included Graham Nash from Crosby, Stills and Nash in the exhibit because he was actually a photographer before he became a musician. His dad was actually a photographer as well. He bought one of the very first digital printing machines, and the first thing he did was take it completely apart. I asked him about that, and he said, I think I can make it work better. Okay, he took it apart, he put it back together. He didn't like the quality of the black that was coming out, so he invented a new black. I think he still owns the patent on that black, in fact. And he printed out the images that he wanted me to consider to put into the exhibit. And they were okay. I would put them in the exhibit. He said, can I show you something else, Lee? I said, sure. He opens a drawer and he pulls out these things. And it's the same photographs again, but with all these glitches going through them. And he said, I think these look really great. And I was amazed. I thought they looked wonderful. I said, yes, we should put those in the exhibit. He said, no, no, no. I don't want anybody to see what I did wrong. I could not convince him that they should be seen by people. He was just too worried that he'd be greatly criticized by putting them out in public.
Times were changing.
Yeah, funny how things have changed.
Yeah.
Now we're doing it on purpose.
Yeah. That's funny.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation, Sherry. If no one else has any questions, I think we can. Oh, Victor?
I just wanted to say, Sherry, great work. It was really nice to see you here. And we've corresponded before. It's the first time or last meeting we saw each other. And but great work. It's great to see you.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, thank you very much, Sherry, for your presentation. Very wonderful work.
That's very nice.
Okay, so moving right along into our third presenter for this afternoon, evening, wherever you are. We have Deann Stein Hasinoff, which I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, you got it.
Okay, cool.
Most people, when they read my name, call me Dean. So you're doing well.
Great. Well, I got one name right today.
Oh, you got them all, so that was even better.
Oh, cool. There we go. All right. Well, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to share my screen here. All right. So, as Davo said, my name is Deann Stein Hasinoff, and I'm coming to you today from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, where it's a little less spring-like than I'm sure it is in some other parts of the world. We just had some snow yesterday. Hopefully that'll be the last of it, but you never know, living where we live. So just to give you some background about me, my first career was in speech-language pathology, and I specialized in working with adults who had sustained a brain injury. When my first child was born, I surprised myself and everyone else and decided I wanted to be at home with them, and so I started my second career. After my second child was born, I wanted to try something creative, and I started taking painting classes. And this eventually led me to taking a visual arts certificate through the Faculty of Extension at the University of Alberta. And in that program, I found that I loved abstraction and that I preferred drawing to painting. And then this led to my third career as an artist. And although parenthood has its moments, I can honestly say that the art as a career has taken me far out of my comfort zone in many ways. So when I talk about my art, I always like to post my very first artwork from when I started taking classes. As someone who found art in my 30s, I want people to see that just because you didn't grow up drawing, painting, and sculpting or what have you, that doesn't mean you can't be creative or that you're not a creative person.
Oh, hey,
And
Deann,
also-
for a second.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you wanted the screen to be presented the way that's currently showing as, but
Was it showing, is it not showing the?
it was showing like your outline structure.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, it's all right.
Well, now I'll do it from memory. Okay. So you don't have to be creative, and you also don't have to be amazing the first time you make something. So before I got into digital, I like to work in series. So my first series had to do with the brain. So coming from my inspiration from working with people with brain injury. This was to represent what I thought was going on in the brain at the time. And so Game Changer is about malformation of blood vessels inside the brain, and Fade In, Fade Out is about emerging consciousness after an injury. And then my second series was about dementia, which started because I work in my spare bedroom, and I was watching my neighbors moving out of their house. And the reason they were moving was because one of them had developed dementia and they had to move into a different location. And then in 2013 is sort of when everything changed for me. So I developed what I called at the time allergic to the world syndrome. So I developed severe sensitivities to chemicals, the environment, and foods. So I like to say that it affected what I eat, what I wear, what I do, and where I go. So it became really difficult for me to make art in general. And after trying all different kinds of mediums, I finally decided I was going to have to give it up because there was just nothing I could find that would actually not cause a reaction. And then a friend of mine suggested I try apps. And so I went online and I started looking up on my phone on apps, and I found one that I liked, and I sort of started drawing from there, and I haven't really looked back from that. So as I said, I like to draw in series. And I also, when I'm drawing, I started drawing from a place from automatic drawing. And so I don't really have an idea of what I want to do. I just sort of draw something, and then the image or a line or shape or shadow or something comes into play. And I use this to kind of help process all of the significant change that was going on in my life at the time. And that ended up becoming a series called All Exits Look the Same. And there are about 27 drawings in this series because I had a lot to process at the time. And so this is one, Overwhelm, Overcome. It's two separate drawings, and it's to represent the idea that sometimes nothing in your life actually changes. The only thing that changes is your ability to understand and manage what's happening. And then these are some other drawings. Even though I don't necessarily start out knowing how the drawing is going to go in the beginning, eventually as I'm going through it, I kind of get an idea of how I want things, how things are progressing, or the idea starts to form. And then I kind of use that and I pretty quickly recognized that it was a drawing about my husband. And so I just kind of had that in mind when I was drawing that. With the automatic drawing process, even though I have an overarching idea of the series that I'm working on at the time, sometimes stuff just comes out and I have no idea how it relates to what I was planning on doing in the first place. So I just kind of save them, and sometimes they kind of fit in. Eventually I can see how they fit in, and sometimes I just keep them, you know, they're just separate from what I was doing in the first place. In 2015, I participated in a group show with photography and people who were working with digital art. And from that, I kind of got inspired by what some of the artists were doing. And I did a few where I combined my photography with my digital drawing. And in this particular one, I didn't actually take this photo. My husband took it because it was at a time when I couldn't actually be outside a whole lot. And then I just put my digital drawing over top of it. So part of the way I manage my chronic illness is through walking, through getting some exercise. And so, excuse me, one day I was out in the river valley and I looked down at the ice and I was like, wow, look at all those awesome like shadings of gray and black and white and what have you. And that just started a whole new avenue, a whole new series for me in terms of taking photos of the ice and then coming home and abstracting them into an image that I was happy with. So I like to get out into the river valley as much as possible, but you know, sometimes not always possible given the season. Some aren't as good for me as others. I like my world cold and dead, as I like to say. And then my most recent series was Catching Smoke. So after working on All Exits Look the Same, and I found processing, you know, what was going on in my life to be very helpful, I decided to turn that same lens to anxiety, which I have had experience with my entire life. And so through that, I developed this series. Oops. So one of the things I love about digital is the ability to cut and paste. So Anxiety's Born came together pretty fluidly, but Wait and Feeding the Wrong Wolf went through many iterations before I finally got to where I was happy with what it is. And it was entirely through the ability to just save what I was doing, open up a new page, try something new, go back, see if I like that one better. I find digital to be really freeing in that way. I don't get so tight when I'm working. For this series, I also wanted to incorporate text in some way. And so some of the drawings, I was able to do that. Like Sherry, I'm pretty low tech, so I don't, this was done like on word processing and like with importing the photo into that and figuring it out that way. After I was done that series, I was a bit frustrated with the app that I was using because they had made some changes and I just didn't find them to be as user-friendly as it used to be. So I was trying to work with Procreate and I'm still trying, but I'm not sure I've really found my groove with that particular app yet. So I switched back and forth between that one and the one I use all the time. And whichever one I find least frustrating at the moment is the one I kind of work with. As far as my photography is concerned, I'm spent a lot of time waiting in my car in the last year. With, you know, COVID, you can't be in a waiting room anymore. And with my kids, with their activities, depending on what the infection rates are and whether or not they're allowed to have any, I spent a lot of time sitting in my car. So I started taking photos of things while I'm sitting there waiting. I've started to incorporate some color into my photographs, and I also am I'm becoming more interested in less picturesque types of landscapes. And that's all for me. So that's my Instagram and my website. My Instagram is the most updated one. I also post other things in terms of creative stuff, but you know, it depends on the day. So thanks, and thanks for letting me be a part of this group because it's really showing me how I can stretch my digital work in ways that I would never even have thought of. So thanks.
All right, thank you so much for your presentation, Deann.
Another great presentation. Wow.
Yep, very
Go
much
ladies,
so.
women.
Happy Women's History Month.
Yeah, you know, the only thing I don't like about calling something a month is like, oh, we just get a month.
Right.
You know, we're out there, so I say keep going. But boy,
Yeah.
this was really terrific.
It was. Does anyone have any questions for Deann so far, or just a lot of appreciation? You can share words of appreciation too. It doesn't have to be a question.
I'm just raising my hand, Davo, if that's okay. But
cool.
do you use, we were talking about how you go from page to page. Do you use layers when you're working or no?
In the app that I use the most, there wasn't that capacity to use layers. So that was why I would always sort of copy the drawing and then move it onto a new page so that I could do that. I do like that feature in Procreate where you can actually just layer stuff on and then take out what you don't like, you know, as you're going along. But yeah, so part of it is just trying to figure out how to make the app work you know, to the best of my ability, which I'm not a high-tech person, so I get really annoyed if I have to fuss around too much with stuff. So
Yeah.
I try and do it within my limited patience.
Well, they have a very dark kind of depth for something that's abstract. You know, there's something that's so compelling and draws you into them that they really are nice, very nice work. Thank you.
Thanks.
Diana, did you have something to share? I saw you unmuted yourself.
Yes, I was just really, I think, inspired by the way your process works. I'm a TBI patient myself.
Oh, okay.
So my art comes a lot from a brain injury and multiple sclerosis, but to the automatic aspect of your writing, or your art, I could sense it in your presentation and in your artwork. I could almost feel what you were feeling, I guess, the best way to put it.
Thank you very much. Because I often wonder, you know, you always wonder if what you are feeling is conveyed in the image, and so that means a lot. Thank you very much.
It was to me.
Yeah. Anybody else have anything to share? Yay, nay? Victor?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say, Deann, I love the abstraction, the feeling of the work and the way it's operating graphically. I think it really is successful in conveying the feelings. So I just wanted to let you know that I thought it was great.
Thank you.
All right. And you definitely have my respect as another digital drawer myself. I do a lot of what I do. It's a mix of like, it's automatic drawing versus like with painting elements with other stuff just all kind of thrown into one thing. But yeah, I know that feeling of just kind of just going and seeing where it takes you and then taking a step back and it's like, oh, well, that's nice. So definitely understand that feeling.
And just to comment about the resolution in terms of apps, that is definitely a challenge when you're trying to reproduce it. There's workarounds though, so I can reliably print like 8.5 by 11 on my home printer just to do test prints, but anything larger than that, I have to scan to a higher resolution, and then my printer can print it whatever size I want after that. So it's a bit fiddly that way, but you know, it's doable.
You know what's interesting? The opposite kind of problem you can have if you're doing really large pieces, like even on a big Wacom screen, which I have. When I'm doing these large pieces that I set up to be like 4 feet by 3 feet or something like this, I really never, until I go out to the physical piece, I'm zooming in and out. But whereas I used to paint going up and back to my, you know, my canvas, it's like I'm zooming in and out and working close and then going back. But until I get it out there and really make the piece with Lamont or wherever I go, I've never really seen the whole piece. It's almost like working digitally, and then hey, whatever someone wants to go out to. I mean, that's an exciting way to look at digital too. I mean, what I find so fascinating about all these presentations is how individualized they are. And is there really a movement? Seems like there is in certain areas going on with game kind of drawings and stuff and fantasy. But then I look at some of the things today, and they're also different. But I don't know, this revolution is really interesting to contemplate. It's hard to put in categories because so much is going on. It's mind-blowing.
I have a question. I was wondering about that one piece that you did where it was drawing on top of a photograph.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you do any more work like along those lines as far as like developing it into a series? Because that one in particular seemed very different, you know, from a lot of the other pieces. And I guess this is sort of like a secondary question that dovetails into the first one, is that, you know, does the work provide some sort of catharsis for you in some way, like in terms of, you know, you talked about the emotional aspect of it, you know, and a lot of like your presentation. I mean, my father passed away pretty recently and he had dementia. So in the initial presentation, I was thinking about that and how like they, at the assisted living place, like they brought someone in and had him, you know, making artwork. And he, you know, he was a photographer, but he never really did anything with painting before that I knew of. And it was interesting, you know, to see what he produced. But, you know, with regards to your own work, like I was wondering, do you find that it provides some sort of catharsis, or do you use, you know, your studio practice in that way to some degree?
Definitely. So it was actually suggested to me way back when I was first developed my illness. I went to see a psychologist for a while because just my life had just sort of turned upside down. And she suggested that I try drawing. And my original drawings were just sketches. They were just, you know, line drawings of all the stuff that I was, you know, stuff that happened in my day or whatever. And then I realized over time that I could turn that into an actual like abstraction. And so it played a huge role in terms of helping me sort of process all of the stuff that was happening, which is why I wanted to do it with the anxiety as well. Now I'm kind of wondering what I could do next, because I kind of feel like I'm in a pretty good place right now. So, you know, barring some other, you know, challenging event, I've got to figure out what I'm going to do next. But yeah, I like, but I was going back through the photography, the photography and digital stuff. I thought, oh, I haven't done this in a really long time. Like those were from 2015. I'm like, maybe I should go back and start looking at that in some way and how to incorporate that. I'm either through using the landscapes and the digital or some other means, but I definitely that's an area I could expand on more.
All right.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay. If no one else has any more questions for Deann, I think we can wrap up the presentations because that's it. I don't believe Susan ever, I mean, it's not Susan, Sarah. I don't think she ever made it. So that's going to close that out. But thank you so much, Sarah.
Thanks.
Wow. Susan, Sherry, and Deann, thank you so much for your presentations. It was really a pleasure. All of your work is amazing and can't wait to see more of it because I think I am following all of you on Instagram. So yeah. And that being said, that closes out our presentations for the day. And now we can get into just kind of general discussion and news with what's going on with, you know, the movement or the community. Anyone have any interesting news that they want to share with all of us, or yay, nay, possibly?
Davo, do you want to open it up with maybe just talking about the salon, you know, since we've been sort of working on this for a while, and, you know, when we might want to open it up and have a little online opening and all that kind of stuff?
For the collab?
The collab. That's right, the collab.
It's all
long
good.
Days. It's only halfway over.
It's all good. So yes, very, very early on, for those of you that don't know, very, very early on in the start of these salons, I actually presented the idea of having a community collaboration project. It has been messy. I will say that it's been it's had a bit of a rough start. It's still actually kind of rough going because I've never actually organized anything like this before, and corresponding with so many people is on a fairly regular basis is kind of outside of my normal activities, but I'm getting there. Anyway, the whole idea was to pretty much have artists communicate one another in the same way that, you know, Basquiat and Warhol did their famous collaboration all those years ago. And I was trying to kind of channel that spirit with this movement and opening up or trying to facilitate collaboration between members of our community. And the first round had 10 participants. We have works from 8 of them because the last group, they just kind of dropped off the face of the planet. Haven't heard from them since. But we do have 8 participants, which is 4 pairs, and their finished works. And we finally have all of those curated and uploaded to Kunstmatrix, which is where we're going to be showing our virtual exhibition. And the next meeting on 4/13, we are going to actually be showing it to everyone that's going to be in attendance. So if you're going to miss one, that's kind of a big one, but it'll be all right. It's going to be recorded, so if you'll find it on YouTube, and also the exhibition itself is going to be available for anyone to go into and look on Kunstmatrix itself and on the website. So yeah. Anybody have any questions about that? Or
I do, Davonte, about when you're saying collaboration, is it one person doing something and then somebody riffs off that, or are you actually working on the same piece, or is it a little bit of a mixture of everything?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, the thing is that I left it up to the individual pairs to decide how they want to collaborate. If they want to do like the first way that you were describing, where one person sent a piece and then somebody riffs off of that, or they both worked on the same piece together back and forth, like I left it up to the individual pairs to decide how they want to do that. As long as like there was like 3 finished pieces at the end of it that could be submitted, then that's done.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is this something that's ongoing? Is there going to be another rendition of this?
Yeah, there's actually right now there is a second collaboration project going on with a second group of artists. That one is still going. As I think actually people were asking me when they can send me work, but if you're done, you can go ahead and send it to me via email with the same one that you reached out to me. But yes, the collaboration is going to be an ongoing thing. The timeline for the project, it's been wonky, like really wonky, because correspondence has been very loose, to say the least. And so having hard deadlines, I'm going to try and make sure for the next time, absolutely sure next time that we have hard deadlines set in place, so that, I get feedback from the people that want to participate, and so they can be paired up, or they can have choose people to collaborate with in a more timely manner, so that, everyone's not kind of held up waiting on that information. But yes, there will be another one. Absolutely.
Okay. Because I'm very much interested, because I have a goal of doing collaboration for 2021. So I would like to participate in the future.
All right. And I will say this too. For those of you that want to collaborate with other members of the movement, feel free to reach out to them, and just like, if you worked on something, send it to me, and we'll probably do something with that too. Like, because I know that for during the second round, there was a couple of people that paired off on their own and started working, and I had no idea. So I just want you guys to be able to work together and create together, and then us be able to show it all off to the world, and show the world what we've made, what you've made. So the formal exhibition, I would like it to have a little bit more structure. But as far as you guys working with each other, like, feel free to do so. Like, you don't have to necessarily just wait for the next event.
Okay, yeah. Understood. Okay.
Got it.
So there was a question from the group. So if you're, in this show, if you're a member of one of the 4 pairings, please, don't release any sort of beta links that I sent to you
Yes.
guys to review. I'm still waiting on bios and stuff like that from some people, and also just, working out some of the user interface ideas to present it on our site. But the gist is, like, you'll be able to view it on our site. And like, if you guys have seen anything on Kunstmatrix, basically it's a VR gallery, or if you haven't, you should check it out. There's a link to it in the footer of our site. They're actually a partner with us. So in exchange for us placing their branding on our site footer, they gave us like a super duper premium package in exchange, which is like, not even one that you can buy on their site apparently. But we have the ability to have a lot of work hosted there and multiple online exhibitions. So I'm thinking, it would be nice to be able to have a collab up and public continuously. So in overlapping any other exhibitions, because like we have this NFT show that Ann Spalter is curating right now. There's an open call for it on the homepage, and also you can get to it. There's a redirect set up from nftnowshow.com. And basically, like, that's there was an open call that went out off of call for entry recently, and we're also, basically, like, there's a link to it on the homepage. But that's really aimed at people that have already minted NFTs. Like, I know Ann has been sort of overwhelmed with people asking her, for a lesson on how to make an NFT, and it's a fairly involved process. So, I would recommend you guys, if you have an interest in learning about NFTs, if you do a search for the NFT Bible, that's a document that's on OpenSea, which is a very, kind of like a cross-platform platform, so to speak, for NFTs that indexes all of the different NFTs that are, that are written to the Ethereum mainnet blockchain. That particular document, if you just search the NFT Bible, you'll find it, is a pretty good primer. That being said, when the NFT show opens, which we're opening that up during Freeze Week, which is going to be in the beginning of May, I think May 5th. There's going to be, a big sort of push, to drive traffic to the site and the exhibition. So it'll also drive traffic and views to the collab show. We're going to have them, both up and running at the same time. And, like, I think that the initial show, Techspressionism 2021, the NFT show sort of just came about as a result of the PR firm that we're working with recommending that, we take advantage of the fact that everybody in the world is talking about, people and NFTs. And so instead of trying to like turn the original show into an NFT show, which would be logistically almost impossible to expect people to, be able to mint NFTs, it was not presented as an NFT show. We decided that since Ann is, she's, affiliated with Super Rare, she's spoken on their panels and is selling, a good amount of her own work on that platform. She's sort of the authority figure within our group with regards to NFTs. And I had asked her if she was interested in curating it. And she was agreeable to that. So that's kind of what's happening with that. And the original show, the Techspressionism 2021 show, since this NFT show is going to open in May and probably run through the summer, I sort of made an executive decision to just push that next show off to the fall, because there's no real reason to have a giant gap in our schedule, in our exhibition programming. The next thing after that that's happening that's definite is the physical show, which is going to be at Southampton Arts Center, and that's opening up in April of 2022, and that's confirmed. That's a done deal. We had a meeting with them, with their executive director last week, and they're very they're psyched about the show, and we're talking about potentially seeing if we can get it to be a traveling exhibition. Again, like this is all sort of not fully formulated at this point, but we're just trying to work out, some of the details. And I'm going to be co-curating that show with Ann Spalter. She also, her Anne and Michael Spalter have a very large collection of digital art going back to the 1950s. So some of the work from that collection is actually going to be on loan for the exhibition, which is going to, I think, frame it very nicely from an art historical standpoint, and make it something where the contemporary Techspressionist work is contextualized in some way, both with the early computer art, but I think more importantly within within the sort of philosophical and artistic framework of expressionism, which is the premise of this idea really, is that Techspressionism is a direct outgrowth of expressionism, and sort of conceptually I'd like to think it picks up where neo-expressionism leaves off. That is, artists like Basquiat or even David Sally, who might be considered neo-expressionists, not working with technology, but certainly a continuation of figurative expressionism, and also abstract expressionists like Pollock and Franz Klein and those guys, Rothko. Techspressionism to me, I think, in a lot of ways, originally, like, it was something that I just cooked up as a title for a show to talk about my own work. And then, I started thinking that really it's not something that I would choose to have it be defined by a certain aesthetic. Like, it should not all look the same. To me, it's something that is really about the artistic approach of using technology to express emotional experience. And it doesn't need to necessarily all look the same. In fact, to me, it shouldn't, because it's not about a style. In fact, like early on when we met with Helen Harrison, who's the director of the Pollock Krasner House, she made a suggestion that we change the definition from an artistic style in which technology is used as a means to express emotional experience to an artistic approach to really, take the style out of it. The style is something that's, personal to the artist, and it might be something that is very techy looking with fractals and all sorts of other stuff. It might have typography in it. It might look like abstract painting, but really, and sort of like the tricky part for me is, like, if I'm looking at a piece, right, I don't know what the emotional intent of the artist is, especially on Instagram, where a lot of times you don't even know the actual name of the artist or where they're located, their gender, or anything. They're just like,
here's the work.
XY2, some weird handle, So, I mean, really, like when I've been curating the feed, for instance, I've just been trying to base it on work that I feel is visually strong, that clearly uses technology, and especially people who are using the hashtag to help sort of propagate the concept. But I really, like, from a curatorial standpoint, do not want this to be something where it's just another label for digital art. There's 1,000,001 of those already, and it's uninteresting, really. So that's not the goal. And part of the connection to Southampton is that, well, for one thing, I grew up out there, and got to spend time at the Pollock House when I was young, like, just visiting it, and it definitely had a big impact on me, seeing, wow, like, these multi-million-dollar paintings in, MoMA and stuff like that. They were created in this little shack, essentially, where Pollock and Krasner first lived without electricity or running water. It really sort of like, it made an impact on me, and his story and everything else like that. And so, the East End of Long Island is really a place where the expressionists, especially the abstract expressionists, but also figurative expressionists. There's one named Lester Johnson who's starting to become better known now that he's no longer on this planet. But figurative expressionists as well all sort of convened out there to escape New York City, and there's a big sort of cultural history there. So I think, to be able to bring Techspressionism to a physical space for the first time as a group, it makes a lot of sense for it to be happening there, where it's 20 minutes from Pollock's house, 20 minutes from where Rothko has been buried for a long time now, where de Kooning worked, and there were a lot of other people out there too, like Warhol had a place in Montauk, I think, and people like Lichtenstein, the pop artists as well. So at any rate, I'm kind of rambling here, but I just wanted to let you guys know that it's I think I struggle sometimes with trying to figure out what it actually is, but I think ultimately I want to make it really sort of clear that like it's not about work that looks a certain way. That's not necessarily even what constitutes a movement, although many people might think it is. If you look at something like Fluxus, you would never know that all that work is under one umbrella if you looked at the works individually. So, I kind of maybe equate it in some regards to that. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now.
Don't stop.
It's fun stuff.
Yeah, it really is. Real quick question before we get off into NFT world or wherever this goes, or is it Davo, on the collab thing, do we have any sort of guidelines for the fact that, I've already been in the first collab, and, I'm thinking about, I'm talking with someone about maybe doing another one. A lot of people haven't even done it yet. So,
right.
It's in democracy, it's messy, like you say, but
it is quite messy.
That's the best we have. So can you speak to that a little?
That, to be completely honest with you, I had not given too much thought about people that have already been featured in a previous exhibition, participating in future ones. The thought that I'm having is that I think priority will definitely be given to those who have not actually been in an exhibition yet.
Yeah.
And if there's still, a need for, participants, then, we can pull from people that have done it before and that have, already submitted work.
That sounds good. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, maybe you'll just keep an eye on that. And
yeah, because it hasn't been too many people yet. And I actually have like an ongoing like Google Doc of everyone that's participated so far or want to participate. So yeah, I'm keeping track.
Great. That sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us who've done before, if we submit, I wouldn't have any problem. And I already spoke to someone I'm talking to about it. And she said the same, like we've both been in one. So you don't necessarily, it'll be fine if you come back and go, hey, that I'm just saying that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a deadline for round 2 yet?
Ish. I know that's not what we want to hear. Kind of. I said tentatively I think it was April 15th or April 16th, one of the two. Because the last correspondence came out like 2 weeks ago. So it was a full month from then. Because then the definitive list for who wants to participate was disseminated and the partners were given out and assigned or picked. So
okay.
Oh, cats are doing stuff. Sorry.
Hey, I'm just throwing something out there. It's kind of nice to be able to jam a bit, but I don't know how Colin and Davo or anybody else thinks about this, but in terms of how we promote the collabs, is it of any interest to maybe take a screenshot of the artist in that collab, off of the Zoom, for any kind of promo purposes, or just these are the, we could all meet, take a screenshot and just use it somewhere. It's just a thought, but it's kind of fun because it says, hey, this is how none of us have even met each other. So I thought it might be kind of an interesting usage of that.
Yeah, hopefully we can get everyone, all 8 of us that are in the show if we can get everyone to show up next time, I'm happy to cut up a grid and pull out the participants. That's a good idea, though.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So do you want us to come like early a little, or I thought I'd be on a plane, but I don't think I will. And I saw Davo, nothing stops him from coming to the meeting. He's in a car, or I recently did that too. But would you want us maybe to try to come early, or just during the meeting and you'll pull it apart, or what do you want to do, Colin? How can
Well, maybe, I figure we already have 3 presenters lined up for the next one in 2 weeks, the 13th. So I figure what we'll do is we'll do the presentations first, since, the presenters might need to go somewhere or whatever.
Yep.
And then after that, we could do sort of just an informal opening, and hopefully if we can get everyone there. If someone isn't present, I'm sure we can get them to take a screenshot of themselves or something and shop it in,
you could do anything with Photoshop.
I thought at some point it'd be pretty cool to do some sort of weird publicity photo where we actually find some picture of people all sitting. There's a picture of I think it's they're called the 9th Street artists or something like that, all the New York School Abex people, and there were definitely female artists in there too. There's some famous shot of them all sitting in it's a black and white photo to Photoshop in people's faces or something. That'd be pretty funny. But
that would be.
But we could definitely do that. All just be looking at the show at the same time and be in, and be able to chat about it. Next time we have I believe it's so we have Andrea Bonacetto, Tommy Mintz, and Clive Holden. Yeah. So it should be a good lineup. Andrea, actually, if you guys hadn't heard, or I posted it on some of our social channels, he was at a couple of the early salons, and he was actually the guy that first kind of got me interested in NFTs. I guess he's been involved in blockchain stuff, sort of from the business side for a while, but also has been doing these portraits. And if you Google him, he's in the artist index under UK, but he's from Italy originally. He sort of made some headlines recently, and I had seen a story about his collab with a robot called Sophia, where he worked with this robot and the AI. He did a portrait of the robot using, I guess, some sort of graphic software. He's been doing these, he calls them vectorial portraits. And then I guess the robot collaborated in helping to paint and add color to the portrait of herself. And it was minted. I believe it was dropped on Nifty Gateway. And then literally I was watching local Long Island news not that long ago, and there was a story, and they didn't mention his name, but they pulled up an image of the artwork, and I was like, that's Andrea, you know what I mean? And my wife is like, who? And then I Googled it, and before the story even came on, because there was a teaser of the story, and he sold this NFT for close to $700,000. And I guess they said it was in an auction in Hong Kong, but I believe the drop happened on Nifty Gateway, which is pretty remarkable, shocking actually. But I'm going to be out interviewing him tomorrow for our YouTube channel, so that should be pretty cool. And if you guys have any questions that you want me to ask him, feel free to shout about. I'll throw them into the interview.
I'm glad to hear you're interviewing him. I didn't realize that, but that's good.
Can you ask him if there are any platforms he might recommend? Because right now what's happening is you have these curated platforms. Well, Rareable's not really curated, but there's Rare Art and a bunch of them. But now you've got a bunch popping up, and you've got semi-fungible, and it's confusing. For all the newbies, because everybody thinks that they can take a picture and sell it as an NFT and become a millionaire. So it's a matter of filtering out the junk, and as well as the junk platforms, and finding a way to do it legitimately.
Well, I know for me, I've tried a whole bunch of them, and certainly have been waiting online for Super Rare and Known Origin and a bunch of them. I finally sourced out an invite to Foundation, which I was excited about. But like originally, like and I recently dropped some stuff on OpenSea. OpenSea is a really good platform to get started on, because you can pay an initial upfront gas fee, but then mint as many works as you want, and then the purchaser pays the gas fee. So, but the thing is, it's not truly minted like until it's purchased. That is, and there's an upside and a downside to that, because like if you decide, like I decided when I got this Foundation invite, I was like, you know what, I'm going to pull my work off OpenSea, and I did that. And initially I thought I would have to pay a gas fee, because if you burn a token, you do need to pay a gas fee. But with the way that OpenSea is set up, you can actually go in and edit the NFT and then delete it. And then it never actually is written to the blockchain until someone purchases it. So you can like remove it, and literally like you could mint an entire collection of like 100 pieces after you pay the initial gas fee. Thanks to Sue Buyer, she actually let us know about that. So I jumped on and started trying some stuff out, and I'm at this point in a very confused state with regards to all this stuff, because I removed this piece that I had on OpenSea, and I minted it on Foundation. And then I see that when I look it up on OpenSea, there was a transfer made to some other Ethereum address in a wallet of someone that I don't know who it is. And like it wasn't showing up on Foundation. And then there was an offer made to that person who on OpenSea, it says is the owner of the NFT. So I went onto Foundation's Discord, and they said that basically once you mint something, it goes into escrow for the platform. So that weird sort of address is actually Foundation's. It's the wallet that's used for the contracts. Basically,
Rarible does the same thing. I have two minted on Rarible, and like 13 or 17 semi, on OpenSea waiting, for that contract.
It's frustrating, because I see that someone actually made an offer. They saw it on OpenSea and they made an offer, but I can't actually act on that offer because the offer wasn't made through the originating platform.
No, it's through the other guys.
I was like, oh, I met my reserve. And then I went on the Foundation and the bid wasn't showing. And I was like, what's up with that? So that's when I jumped onto their Discord. So, it's just an experiment. You just have to experiment, and it seems like every day there's another platform popping up. So, it's just really, just a trial and error process as far as I can tell.
There's actually a platform that Anne and I both end up discovering. I'm not sure when, but apparently it was around the same time, because I saw her tweeting about it on Twitter. But there's a platform called Hic et Nunc, which it's Hic et Nunc, which I think it's Latin for here and now, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, Hic et Nunc is an very, very, very new platform. I think it's like not even like 2 months old or 3 months old at this point. And they are billing themselves as a more environmentally free, environmentally conscious platform, because of the rising concerns about the economic impact of Ethereum and what Ethereum mining could be potentially doing to the environment. And so as a result of that, they were like, well, there's got to be a more energy efficient alternative cryptocurrency to use. And they were like, well, Tezos is a cryptocurrency that is a lot more energy efficient. And there's quite a few artists. I think they recently just cleared like 10,000 minted objects on their platform. And I actually just sold this past weekend, sold my first NFTs on that platform. And I mean, they weren't for a whole lot. It was more of an experiment than anything, but I did manage to sell 2 editions of an NFT on that platform. And it has less to do with the quality of the work as it has to do with the network of people that are seeing your work. Because I'm a member of a Discord community for that platform. I'm in. You want me to link to it?
Yes.
Yes. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
Mark Cuban has a new platform called lazy.com.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, worth joining because who knows?
Yeah, the NFT, as far as like networking and marketing goes for NFT stuff, apparently Twitter is the place to be, but a lot of these platforms are branching out onto Instagram to try and incorporate some of the collectors there to get them interested to get on these platforms and start collecting NFTs there. So there's going to be a lot of there's just going to be a lot of new stuff constantly popping up as, you know, things get more and more solidified or more streamlined, and the channels get more solidified in what they offer and what they're supposed to do. There's a ton of Facebook groups now. So if you want to try and sell an NFT now, you have to network and become like if you don't have like already like a huge following behind yourself already, like if you don't already have like thousands of followers behind you that are familiar with your work and have collected your work, you're probably going to struggle like me with getting a few sales, but it's possible. It is possible. Like I've only been at this for a month, and
like some platforms like Rarible have a much more of a social component. Like OpenSea really does not have any mechanism to follow people or even message people. Hence, I see that I got an offer and I can't even contact the person, which is really frustrating. But like on Rarible, you can actually search for the top collectors that day and just follow all of them. And then odds are like at least one of those people will follow you back. And that's how I started to build up a following on Rarible, which I decided not to use Rarible because their fees are extremely high in my opinion.
They are so high.
They are.
So, you know, but that was one where like, you know, you could definitely start to build up followers just by following people, and some percentage of them follow you back. And Twitter, you know, functions much more virally in that way than Instagram does. That is like, you know, you can start following people who are, you know, really active NFT artists. And a lot of times like people will do like these Twitter chains where like they'll have a whole slew of people, hey, follow me back, and add you to the chain or whatever. And then you go and follow all those people and it gets retweeted. Like Instagram really doesn't work that way, you know, in any kind of viral way. So like, you know, I think that's also a big reason why NFT people are gravitating towards Twitter. And also a lot of the people that are involved in NFT, you know, art are crypto traders, and they're crypto devs, and they're people who are already in the world of crypto, and maybe they even work with and for some of these platforms. So, you know, those are the people that are already vested in cryptocurrency. They've had, you know, made money in crypto, and it's held in crypto. So another way to diversify is to buy and trade art. So a lot of these people, you know, they'll sell something, then they'll just go and buy like, you know, their buddy's work, or like there'll be like these sort of crews of people. Like I ended up connecting with one guy who's like a coder on Twitter, and you know, he has a whole sort of crew of people. They're kind of like on Rarible actually, that I guess, you know, have been involved on that platform for a while. I think some of them are devs on that platform. So, you know, like a lot of it is kind of like, you know, going out there. I mean, it really depends on your level of interest on this stuff. And I think different people, like there's an artist named Trevor Jones who, you know, if you Google him, you'll see he hit a lot of the record sales at different points on almost all the different platforms. And he started out primarily as a painter, and he was pairing his NFTs with the sale of physical artworks, and sort of pioneered that idea. And even though like a lot of his work is digitally animated versions of his paintings, there's still some sort of a connection. Like I'm not sure if he sells them together or if the purchaser of the NFT gets the physical painting, but there is a physical component to the asset. And I think that's a trend that I'm starting to see more and more now. Whether it be like there's a company called Infinite Objects that makes physical frames, for NFTs that you can hang on a wall. So sometimes NFT artists will sell the NFT in a physical frame, and then that's the object and the digital asset together.
What's the name of that one? The company?
It's called Infinite Objects.
Huh. Okay.
And from what I've heard, they're pretty nice. I think a lot of there was that one show, might have been in Atlanta. There was a show somewhere pretty recently where it was physical. It was a physical show in a gallery space with NFTs all on screens. I think I posted it on like our Facebook group or page or something like that. But I'm pretty sure they use like either Infinite Object screens or something similar to that. I don't know how the NFT is loaded up onto the device. It might, I don't know if it's actually like pulling it off the net somewhere. There's also, I heard about this in Clubhouse at one point. Someone was talking about, they were developing, I forget the name of the company, but something they were calling like a caster. So like it would connect, like say you're an NFT collector and you own a bunch of NFTs, it would screencast everything in your MetaMask wallet to like your screen, your TV, or to your tablet or whatever, which I think is probably something that'll, become some sort of standard way of people doing things.
And there's actually, I don't know if anybody does time-based art, but there is a platform called Black Dove and Sedition Art. And Black Dove has started to tie into NFTs. So you can put your token. When I put something on Black Dove, I can actually put my token into, and I'm not sure how it's new for them, but I'm gonna see how they work this together. It's just another way to get out there. Yeah, it's a streaming app. So people, they buy the Black Dove app, subscribe to it, and then they get art streaming through. But somehow, I don't know if they're brokering the NFTs or what.
Interesting. Yeah, like I said before, there's a lot of new stuff happening just very rapidly.
Yeah, it seems. I also heard that Fortmatic is going to be rebranded, or they're not going to be Fortmatic anymore. So there's sort of it seems like there's two main wallet companies or whatever. There's Fortmatic and MetaMask.
I use Fortmatic to sell on OpenSea because I couldn't change to MetaMask.
Yeah, apparently their Fortmatic just got like a huge round of VC funding, so they're going to be rebranding as Magic, which is probably a more memorable name, and hopefully I find them to be a little easier to use personally than MetaMask and more user friendly.
Really?
Yeah, I think I have some. Yeah, I do have some experience there because I believe actually Fortmatic maybe is safer because the way Fortmatic that they recognize you is use your mobile phone or Google Authenticator. Because I know most of people around the world, they only know MetaMask because it's been running for a while. It's not like a Fortmatic is a startup. The problem with the MetaMask, I should say, the problem with the Google Chrome is the same. Once you get on Google Chrome, it's always easy to get hacked. Because I got hacked about 3 weeks ago. I was freaking out. Totally. So I changed the password, username, everything. But I figured out probably because I have a lot of transaction from the OpenSea. Because I now added the entire hack software that I noticed that there's a lot of attack from other countries or even maybe from the United States. Fortmatic actually, for me, I think it's a little bit safer because, but the thing is you have to have a mobile phone. That's how it works. It's not like a MetaMask. MetaMask wallet is like, you just remember your C phrase and then you can lock. But but the other word, whenever who know your C phrase from somewhere, they can totally just go in to find your find all your assets. So just, this is not any finance advice, just share my experience, because I believe that everything I say, everything who want to say in the public, we have to make like a sort of like a disclaimer.
Yeah.
It's like the wild, wild west right now. It really
And
is.
I think, also like one thing, to sort of, think about as far as these giant sales go is just looking at it from a first person user standpoint. There's nothing to stop me from creating an account called, randomizer123 with my own other wallet address and just buying my work. Which, from what I've seen on the forums, it happens routinely as a way for artists to produce sales, commodify themselves, etc.
Marketing.
Which really isn't that different from anonymous purchases at Sotheby's or Christie's, to be honest. From what I've heard, speaking to curators about this phenomenon with NFTs, they're like, shills and this same sort of phenomenon has been going on in physical auction houses for a very long time. So it's nothing new. It's nothing native to digital art. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It might be the dealer, buying someone's work at Christie's for a giant inflated price because guess what? They're going to benefit from it. So it's like the modern equivalent of that.
I think,
because there's plenty of stories about Beeple and the sale, and that might have been tied to some coin that he was vested in with some other person, whatever. But I mean, it's not a new story.
Yep. It is literally just another way to market. Like that is a marketing tool. And I was actually talking to somebody else not too long ago about just the things that some people are saying are problematic with NFTs. They've already kind of been issues within the art industry in general already, like that people have been dealing with for years. Now, there are some unique things, like just because everything is digital, art theft is seemingly on the rise. Like that is a real thing that's happening. People like just trying to mint someone else's artwork to sell it for a quick sale, and then they disappear. That is something that's happening.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not necessarily a strike against the actual use of NFTs. It's just kind of par for the course, something that you just kind of have to be like conscious of when you're producing artwork like this. And digital artists for years before even NFTs were a thing, they were still having issues like that happen, where their artwork would be taken, downloaded from somewhere else, and someone would upload it for like a t-shirt or a hat or some sort of merchandise, or a celebrity would even take one. Like I think there was a issue that happened with like Chris Brown a couple of years ago, where he took a piece of art that he found on Instagram and like threw a filter on it and like erased a couple of details and was trying to pass that off on it as his own. And the original artist found out, and he was like, "What are you gonna do? You're small." Yeah, so that was that. I mean, it's a thing. Like art theft is still very much an issue.
That's
one reason that these platforms are going through a verification process. Like on Rarible, like you have to go through a sort of process to get verified and fill out a bunch of stuff and then confirm that's really you and stuff like that. So when collectors are buying from a profile that's verified by the platform, the likelihood of it being someone other than the actual artist is lower.
Right.
So that's sort of like, I guess, the justification for there being curated platforms and verification procedures.
Yep.
I agree that a lot of the controversial issues are just art world issues that have been going on for a long time. But some of the things are that one of the things I think is very interesting that is new is, from what I understand, you can set up an NFT to distribute to payment to more than one person automatically. And if that becomes easier to do, I believe it's true, then one of the age-old problems in the art world is getting paid by your gallery.
Royalties.
Not speaking about my experience, I actually happen to have a really good gallerist. I've been lucky that way. And when he sells something, I get the 50% quite quickly. He's very good about that. But I hear tons of stories all the time from artists, and it's definitely the case historically that they just don't get paid for their sales, or they get paid for a small fraction of their sales. And even if we end up in a situation in 2 or 3 or 4 years where we're still working with galleries, but they have a new NFT division, the payment, the moment of payment can be automatically distributed, whatever percentage to the gallery and whatever percentage to the artist, without any hassle whatsoever about that. And that could be one of the biggest things that comes out of this.
That was actually probably the single most exciting part about this, outside of being able to sell digital artwork, but the royalty aspect, which
the royalty, exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy because you really, there's no work on your behalf. Like if your work gets sold or resold by somebody else, you're still making a profit of that. So if somebody tries to resell it at a much higher rate than what they acquired it for, you're still getting something from that.
10% or whatever.
Yeah. And that's major because art can change hands multiple times over the course of its existence, and you're still getting paid for that.
Yeah.
So
Devo, does that on OpenSea? I put one piece up just to kind of figure out how to do it, and it's been sitting there, and I haven't really been promoting it. It's an older piece, and I think there's something exciting to be said about doing something a little different now. But to that point, I didn't see anything where I heard anything about resale or anything. Is that just, and I didn't see it in their code or anywhere. Do you know if is that true across all the platforms, or do you know, or
not? Some platforms offer royalties, but not all of them yet. Not most of them are heading towards them. Like the platform I'm using, Hiket Nunk, that I think they just 2 days ago, they're playing with the resale and royalty feature.
I see. So if you don't see it, maybe it isn't like at OpenSea, maybe that isn't.
It might not be a thing yet. It could be on the way.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's nowhere yet because the piece is just sitting there.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun if you can, at least if you want to try. I don't think it hurts anything to put a piece up just to learn how to do it. Believe me, I was scratching my hair. I do work in tech, but I can't operate a toaster. And so I got into this whole field by accident when my painting's filled with pixels, and it's been incredibly adventurous. And this is all a whole new adventure, but just take the plunge, and how bad can it be? One night I was just sitting there, I had a glass of wine. I was just like, okay, I'm doing this. And I told my husband, I said, look, I'm going to start screaming. And he goes, oh, you can do it, Roz. And I waded through it, but it'd be good to maybe just put something up to know how to do it in case, when everybody wants to buy your work, which I know is going to happen in next half an hour, I've got to be ready. But it's a good thing to know how to do it somewhat, and then it's.
I will say though, I would probably not advise whining and minting together.
No, that's not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
You're bad. You're right. Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
I was wondering, does anyone have an opinion about comparing Coinbase to Gemini as an exchange platform? Are there any pros and cons of
Gemini?
I've never even heard of Gemini. This is my first time hearing about it.
I'm just new to it, but I heard
heard
that's
about
also
it.
like Coinbase, and it's owned by the same twins that bought Nifty Gateway. So,
and sued Zuckerberg.
Right,
Nice.
right. So, because I was thinking Coinbase would be the one. And then Coinbase was getting some bad press because they're getting ready to do a public option, and I guess as a result of them, the spotlight's on them, and they had their customer service was questionable, but that might be only for a few people against thousands who've had good experience. So I just wondered if anybody had opinions about that part of the process.
I know I personally haven't had any issues with Coinbase, but I've only been using it for 2 or 3 months now. So, I haven't had any issues with purchasing cryptocurrency and transferring it to another wallet like Fortmatic or MetaMask or what's the name of the Tezos wallet that I have?
Something strange. I actually had trouble with getting my MetaMask to work on Macintosh Chrome, and I went over to PC and it worked just fine. It basically had to do with just the way that it deals with the security credentials.
Just a permission you can set really easy, Patrick. I had that same problem when I first set up MetaMask. It's in your Chrome settings. You need to let it change in your Chrome settings. Let it accept changes from all sites or something. That's what you're looking for.
For some odd reason, I don't think it was working real well for me. That's all. So I was.
Yeah, I had some similar issues with Mac Chrome and MetaMask too. You do have to go into the prefs and like do some weird tweak.
Okay.
Forget. I think somewhere it's documented on MetaMask, but it's a pain.
Does anybody know how it works if you sell something and you want to get dollars out? I mean,
yeah, you can if you can send like, you have your two wallets essentially. Your Coinbase wallet is kind of like your bank account, and then you have your secondary wallet, which is housing your cryptocurrency for like MetaMask or Fortmatic. You can send currency from Fortmatic or MetaMask back to your Coinbase wallet, and Coinbase can convert it back into US dollars.
Oh, okay, great. It's sort of like now the way I understand is that Coinbase isn't a wallet, actually. It's an online kind of bank.
Yeah. It feels like stock investing, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
but you have a wallet. You have a wallet there. The wallet is a long hexadecimal address. It's your and one for each currency. So you have a send address and a receive address at each sort of like institution or whatever you want to call it, like Coinbase versus Fortmatic, and then you would send yourself ETH from your Coinbase account to your local wallet, quote unquote, at the platform to be able to pay gas fees and other stuff, and then you can send yourself back anything. Also, like if you're using Coinbase, I just signed up for this thing that I guess they're affiliated with, or I don't know if they own it, called Coin Tracker, which as I was doing my tax return, I realized I didn't keep track of any crypto sales or purchases. It actually I think it's free for like 25 transactions, and it literally generated the IRS form. It was unbelievable. I was just like,
wow,
this is amazing. You know what I mean? And I think you can actually like hook it up to like another wallet. So like it'll like, because like, say you sell a bunch of NFTs and then down the road, there's people who buy them from the other people and you're getting royalties. All of a sudden there's like all these different transactions tied to the price of the currency at that time. And you're supposed to tell the government that, like, how could anyone ever figure that out? You know what I mean?
Right.
So this seems to be a pretty nice tool. Yeah.
Ooh, it is 4 o'clock.
We have
I gotta go. Bye.
All right, see you, Roz.
Bye.
And everyone apparently. We will wrap things up.
Everybody.
Bye, Roz.
Thank you for stopping by today. The presentations are great. The discussion was great, and more discussions will be had later. So stick around and show up for the next one, because we also have the collaboration exhibition for the next time. So yeah.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, Diana, I couldn't find you on Clubhouse.
All right. Thank you for coming by.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.